Hello, I am John Russo with Progressive Scale. Uh, my screen's right here. We'll do a quick demo of the provision processing system and what it does, what we're capable of. Give you a quick history. Um, we're a family company. My father started the company as a scale company about 45 years ago. To give you a time frame, today is May 20th, 2022. So this is how the software works right now. We're changing it daily, so there's there's always new functionality added to the software. So this is as of right now, this is how the software works. Um, but we started the company about 45 years ago. I was a youngster, um, and it started as a scale company. And along the way, we brought on some meat processing plants from our manufacturing current clients, and it was eye-opening. We learned a lot about hardware, durability, things like that. And From since then, we've grown about. It's been about 15 or 17 years. We've been writing software for the meat processing industry. Started out just a scale with a label printer, and now we have a software that can run your whole entire facility. So, with no further ado, we'll get into the software and learn about it. Um, so the software itself is it's PC based for most of the components. There are some Android um, components to it. It's SQL backend, so the database is housed locally on a SQL database. We can push information to the cloud as needed, but it's not a cloud application. It gives us a lot of uh, security that way. Also, having the data locally, you own it, it's yours. And If for some reason, let's say your internet was to go down, or you just had bad service where you wanted to put the system, um, you wouldn't have to worry about that. It's all works off the local network. If your internet goes down, you're not down. You can still produce. There might be some information that you need us to with some add-ons or something like that you want us to push to the cloud for third-party integration. We might need to push to the cloud, but we do that on a batch process when the internet connection comes back up. But at least it won't stop you from processing. So that being said, let's move on here. So you want to know what we do. Um, that's probably why you're here. So I'm not going to read the slides to you, but pretty much, we do everything from receiving to shipping. Um, we even have we can do e-commerce integration. Um, we do provide all the hardware, everything from scales to label printers to the wireless scanners, the wireless itself, the actual labels, pre-printed labels if you need them, ribbons for thermal transfer printers if you're going to do anything like that. We have the scales, the touchscreens. We are a scale. We start out as a scale company. We can calibrate them. We even provide regular old scales too. If you do need like a portion scale or something like that, we can provide those as well. All right. So let's move on. Just to give you an idea, these are some of the customers we've dealt with. Not all of them, but just kind of a sampling of some of our customers. Um, we go from fish to um, I don't know, goat processors to chicken, all over the place. So let's give you an idea of who some of the clients that we have. For some of them, we're doing slaughter. For some, slaughter tracking. For some of them, all the way through to their processing. Some of them, we're just doing the labeling. Some of them, we're doing their e-commerce integration. You name it, it goes all the way across the board. This should give you an idea of if you know any of these guys, you can talk to them and see how it's going. Okay. So the PPS software, Provision Processing System, has three different offerings right now. We have our light system, our harvest light system, and our full system. The light system is designed for kind of starting out. You get a scale, a label printer, and you collect data. The harvest light adds to the light system, so everything light system does, plus the slaughter component. So we can track ear tags and that sort of thing. The full system does everything that those two do, plus inventory control, receiving, QuickBooks integration, um, and on. Just to give you an idea, we have three offerings. And any one of them, like if you started the light system, you can easily expand to the harvest light. From the harvest light, you can easily expand to the full system. We don't, all the hardware is still interchangeable, everything like that. It's just additional software and maybe additional hardware depending on what you have. So what is the light system? The light system we offer this scale. We do have touchscreen PCs, and we have integrated scales like this pictured here on the right. It's a Rice Lake 1280 scale indicator. It's a programmable scale indicator. We've traditionally we used a touchscreen PC with a scale inside and a washdown enclosure, but recently due to supply chain problems and things like that, they've been very tough to get, and pricing has gone through the roof. And so we reconfigured, we retooled, and we took the same software we had on the PCs and we wrote it for these units. Just as fast, just as good. They have about a 7-inch screen. And what's nice about them, they're resistive touch, so you can use them with gloves. They are NEMA 4X. You can see here we have a printer in a printer enclosure. That's not always necessary depending on the environment, but we make this printer enclosure. It's a washdown scale, so you have washdown printer. If you don't want to invest in the printer enclosure, you take the printer out at night. We use Zebra printers. In this case, that's a direct thermal label printer from Zebra, wireless. The scale is wireless, so you could put this whole thing on a cart if you wanted to. You could attach it to the wall, permanently mount it. You can do it wired or wireless, like I said. Up in the left-hand corner, that's kind of an example of the scale screen that we've developed, and some of the label designs that we can print at the stations. We can get more into this later on, but this just to let you know what the offering is, and we'll be going through that. But you do get GS1 labeling, which is it's a standard used in the meat processing world, and we'll get into that. You can do lot reporting with the light system. Every time you print a label, it's recorded, and you can print a report at the end with the information. That was everything that was made in that lot, broken down by product or lot, however you want to do it. You can do multiple lots in one report. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. So you get that in the light system. Okay. Now we move on to the harvest light system. So you still get the same stuff you're getting in the light system, and then we add the carcass tracing capability. So this is the scale screen for the carcass processing, or harvest light, we call it. You print a tag, so you'd select the lot, enter an animal ID, which is like the ear tag or the back tag, or we could even connect an RFID wand to this if it was an RFID tag on the ear. We could scan that as well. You enter that information, and out pops your tag or tags. You get multiple tags if you're quartering or however you're doing things. You print your tag, and you can see this is just an example tag. We can have more information on there or less. We can even collect BSE information, and there's a bunch of stuff we could put on the label that's over 30 or under 30. We've got the supplier on there. We've got a serial number. We've got a weight. The false means it hasn't been retained. We know what it is, its serial number, what lot it belongs to, when it was done, its tag number. So all that information's there. You would affix that to the carcass using, there's a couple different methods. You could use a tagging gun. You could slap it to the muscle. We could print this tag on like a tag that goes in the tendon on the back of the leg there. We could do that. There's a lot of options to handle that. But this is the harvest light system. So you would take that carcass, it goes into inventory when you make it, and you issue it into inventory, and issue it to production, and now you've got your traceability. Everything you make out of that production scale, which was the light system before, everything you make out of there gets a serial number, The carcass had a serial number, so now we know that this carcass or carcasses made up the finished good that you just weighed at the scale. And now we have traceability up to that point. Harvest light stops there. The next step would be um, the full system. Full system gives you everything that the light system and the harvest light system give you, um, plus inventory and order management and shipping and QuickBooks integration, reports. The API integration is usually sometimes a custom thing. That means we can push information to the cloud for third-party software, or we could read their information from a third-party software. Like if you're running NetSuite or something like that, we can push the information to NetSuite for inventory or read orders from NetSuite or something like that. This software, again, runs on a PC. You have a desktop software that would be in your office, and that would be the software that everybody would have access to that you wanted to. It's all password protected, so if you didn't want somebody to be able to enter orders or see pricing, there's a bunch of different security levels. We have that in the software too. But the full system gives you all of that. Okay. And we'll get into some of those components when we're all done. You'll understand it all, I hope. And then there's additional add-ons that we can do, like customization or talking to, like I said, to third-party softwares like WooCommerce or Shopify, which are some e-commerce platforms that you can create a shopping cart on or be selling your goods, your steaks or your chicken or your hats, your t-shirts. All that stuff could be sold online, and we can pull those orders from those platforms and fulfill the orders. This is in the picture here, that's a typical order fulfillment station. We've got a tablet. It looks really low, but we're taking the picture from really high here. So that's about eye level or so, that tablet, maybe about chest level. And there's a label printer there for printing the FedEx label and dry ice label and all that stuff. There's a gift receipt printer. There's a packing list printer. This could all be done with the label printer if you wanted to, depending how we configure things. But in this photo, this particular client, we print really pretty gift receipt. It's got, like, holiday decorations on it or whatever it is, depending on the time of year. And there's actually a scale below this, right below that tablet, and that tablet has a barcode scanner for scanning items to the order. But we'll get into that as well. But those are some of the sort of things we can do. And on we go. This is kind of a 100-mile view of what a full system of PPS would look like. If you're doing slaughter, you have your animals, you tag them, they go into inventory, or if you're getting boxed meat in, you may scan, or you might need to label. If the barcode's not legible to the system, then you might need to label it. If it's lots and lots of boxes, there's a bulk labeling feature as well to handle that. If you don't want to put the labels in the boxes, but you still want to receive them individually, there's a lot of different ways of handling that. But essentially, something gets slaughtered, we tag it, we put it in inventory. If it comes in a box, it's already tagged. We put it in inventory, or we tag it coming into inventory. So now that it's in inventory, you could just go right to shipping if you just doing box in, box out. Or if you're going to do further processing on that item, whether it be a carcass or some sort of boxed meat or a combo bin or whatever it is of product, that goes to production. We create a production lot, we issue it, we take it out of inventory, put it into production, produce something out of it, that goes back into inventory, and then you can ship it. Or you could rework it if you had to. It's fine to take something out of inventory and rework it onto another lot, and then put it back into shipping. So those capabilities are there in the system. That's kind of the flow. That's how it works. This is just a real simple version of it, but we'll get into the detail as we go here. So I said that we use GS1 labeling, and I was going to explain it. A GS1 label is it's a standard. There's a GS1 organization that developed this standard years ago. It used to be called a UCC EAN 128, and they shortened it to GS1-128. But this barcode is it has several components. It has almost like a UPC at the beginning, and we put the National Beef standard out here because this is what they give to um, their clients to say this is how you read our barcode. But it's really everybody uses the same thing. So this is just to show you that National Beef, JBS, Purdue, whoever else, Swift, they all use this barcoding uh, layout. So you have your UPC at the beginning, and that tells you essentially if you are shipping to a client that cares, you use a UPC. If you're not shipping to a client that cares and it's all internal, then we don't need to apply for a UPC. So just keep that in mind. But within that label, there is an item ID, which is the global trade identification number or item number, the GTIN it's called. People will call it that. You have your item ID, your weight, pack date, and serial number. Those items all put together make the label absolutely unique. So now, if you were receiving this, you won't see that barcode twice. So you can receive these as a single line item, depending on how your system works. In our system, we receive every single thing as a single line item. So now you've got your inventory, we receive it, or what we're going to do, we're going to scan it. This is how we know what it is. So if I was to ship this to someone else, if I learned that GTIN and what it is, then I know every time you send me that GTIN, I know what kind of product it is. Then I know the weight, I know the pack date, and I would know its serial number. So I know how old it is, all that information. I can run inventories off of it. So how do we get stuff into the system? So we receive our meats or fish or whatever it is into the system. We either did it through slaughter, which slaughter we'll get into right after this. But if we're going to receive meat from an outside vendor, box meat coming in, we set up a purchase order in the system first, and we receive to that PO. Okay, and how do we receive to that PO? We either scan their barcode, a GS1 barcode, using our Zebra barcode scanners. These are Android devices. We scan that barcode in, and if it's not a legible barcode, we have to print a label so we can receive it in. As I said, every one of these has a serial number, so as we're receiving, I would know that I can scan things more than once, and I would only count it once. There's a lot of strength there. It keeps a lot of mistakes from happening. Okay, what it will do though is as we're scanning, the first time you scan this label, if it's never seen that UPC or the GTIN before, it's going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, you got to tell me what this is. You tell the system what that product is, and on you go. And then from there on in, the system knows what it is. This is just to show you the scales again, what we're doing. Kind of a erroneous slide, but just to give you an idea, here's what we use to in production. This is a fish plant, very, very wet, and they can handle that type of environment very well. In this particular plant, we're using a lot of gloves. She's packing right at the scale, so she's got a lot of fish debris on her hands, and when she presses the button every single time, the screen doesn't clog up or gunk up, or it handles it. If you were to use capacitive touch, which is like an iPad or something like that, or those types of devices, they do not like that. So they won't work. You'd have problems with it. You have to use bare hands or something like that. And in a meat plant, that you can't have bare hands picking up the fish. So it's a real nice unit. So now that we put a PO in, sorry for jumping out of there, but we put our PO in, and then we receive on the handheld unit. Okay, so we have our barcode scanner, and we say this is the PO I'm receiving, and we go. Now you can either select the PO from a drop-down list, or we could print out the PO with a barcode on it. You scan that barcode, and it jumps to that PO. Give you an idea. Here's somebody receiving. And if you listen, there's two beeps. There's a there's a scan beep and there's a confirmation beep. That's the good beep sound. That means he hasn't scanned it before. And the nice part is with that, if he was receiving this pallet here, and you see, like, look, there's a missing case there, and um, I don't know. It says there should be 40, there should be 50 there, and he counted 48. Well, he knows you missed one. All right. So then what he would do is he'd start scanning again and give him a bad sound because he's already scanned it. Bad sound, bad sound, bad sound, good sound, and then he knows he's done. He doesn't have to rescan the whole entire palette. We can also palletize when they're receiving. So if he wanted to, as he's receiving this, he can print out a pallet tag and receive to the pallet as well, so that when he's moving this around or if he's going to ship the whole thing, he just has to scan one barcode, not 50 more again. So that capability is in the software as well. So the other way of receiving into the system is through slaughter or harvest. And first thing you do is you set up a slaughter in the system. You say who it is, what farm it is, what it is, when you're gonna process it. All that information's there. And this is the same screen you go to when you want to look at the data, what's been slaughtered. This is where you'd also run the reports for your slaughter. This is also the screen you go to edit your cut sheets. Um, so that's all here. But let's say we slaughtered this animal, or we slaughtered three. In this case, we have a tag number, we've got a product ID, what it is, we've got our sequence number. So if there's three animals, you'd know what the sequence was. If you're doing hundreds of animals, that really comes in handy. We have some clients that do up to like 1,200 animals in a day. Um, the sequence number then becomes pretty critical, so we know where it is in the system in case it gets set aside, right? Like let's say it gets retained, it's pushed over, lot number two starts, goes through, USDA hasn't checked those retains yet, and then they put it back on a rail, it's fine, but whatever it is, or it's got to be trimmed, it got trimmed, got put back on the rail, well now it's mixed in with lot number two. But because it's serialized, for us, data-wise, it doesn't matter. But sequence number-wise, you could go find where it goes back in the sequence and roll it back in if you needed to. We capture the weight, the lot, the grade, the retained, and there's an option too. You can have an additional column here if you want to put the live weight in. So that's there also. All right. Again, this is what a harvest system scale station looks like. This is just a repeat of before, but now that we kind of talked before, you'd hit the open lot button, the blue button, select your lot. Then once it's selected, you just hit animal ID. The screen pops up. It says, what's the animal ID? And you enter it in, it prints a tag. Hit the next animal ID, prints a tag. Hit the next animal ID, prints a tag. If you needed to go, for some reason, go out and grade it, like wasn't normal, it needed trim, or something was wrong with it, then you could jump out and hit the grade and grade it before you printed your button, printed your tag. Sorry. All right. So again, in this station we do use a bigger printer. You can see here than that other one, because we're using synthetic tags here, and we're using a ribbon, a thermal transfer ribbon. So if you do want to, use the thermal tags, then this is the kind of printer you'd need. We do have clients that sometimes print a label and leave the backing on and attach that to the carcass. There's sometimes it works, sometimes it does, depending on how wet it is, because the label will curl. We do use synthetic tags though. However, we don't use paper anywhere because of water. They crinkle up, and then the barcodes don't work when you use paper tags. Okay. So our carcass is what has been processed. It's now in inventory. Okay, you can see it, but this is just a screen to show you, hey, we have something in inventory. Once it's in inventory, we got to get it out and we got to do some processing. So what we do is we create a production lot or a boxing lot, and here you could hit just suggest a lot and it'll create a lot for you based on Julian date. you can enter a lot description. You can have a lot extra fields, which are fields that we can print on the label that only apply to that lot. Um, we can, for this lot, override the label. That's really good for private labeling. So a label design is tied to a product or products. So one label design could be on 100 products. Um, and that's the default label. And that's what it'll use unless you check that box inside the orange box. Um, Once you check that, then it will use whatever label you select there to override it. So if you were private labeling for someone, or if you're doing custom slaughter, that's really handy because now you can put the little Sunshine Farms logo and the cow, with the sun and etc. You can print that on the label. The printer itself is it's black and white, so if you wanted to do color logos and that sort of thing, then we have to use pre-printed labels. But if you do want to just get away with logos, which most of our customers seem fine with. We only have a few that insist on color labels, but it looks really nice. As long as it's a flat, you give us a flat color scheme. If you give us a gradient kind of picture, with a lot of shading and stuff like that, it doesn't come out that great, but we can flatten it. With our artists here, we do have artists here because we have a label company as well that can help with that. All right. So now that we create our lot, now what we do is um, we have to have products to label, right? So I'm kind of going to kind of veer off a little bit here. We're going to look at the products maintenance. Um, so we would go in and we create our products in the system, or they're already there. But um, this is what our product maintenance looks like. Every one of these fields can be printed on a label. Um, a product can belong to more than one group. It can belong to 10 different groups. Um, we can print a UPC, we can put auto print expiration, all kinds of things. It just depends on the label design itself, what gets printed. But all these fields are available to be printed. There's additional tabs there. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you see that we have fixed weights, max weight, and min weight. So if the weight fell between a min and a max, then it will print the label. If it doesn't fall between a min and a max, it will not print a label. If we change the fixed weight from 0 to something else, then it'll print that weight as long as the weight belongs between min and max. If we leave fixed weight at 0, then it will print the actual weight. And you see we fixed weight ounces. We can print in ounces. We can print in weight pound ounce or pound ounces if you need to. There's a lot of different ways of doing that. We can say whether or not this is an each item. If it is, at the scale, it'll ask for count when you hit print as opposed to weight. The base unit weight is used to calculate a weight based on the count. So that's your average weight, I guess you could call that. And then we have bag and boxer for auto setting the scales tears. So if you pull up that product, it auto tears the scale. Then we have our label designs that are defaulted for this product. So we have a case label, and we have a secondary case label if you wanted, and we have a tray pack label. What those are is your tray pack label is your inner label. If you were doing pieces and you pieces to cases, then you would set that tray pack label to your piece label, and then your case label would be set to your actual case label design. And then we can select ingredients. We can have a photo of the product. The photo is just for reference. It doesn't show anywhere really. It does show on the PC version of the software, of the scale software, but like I said, we're right now we're having trouble getting those, so we're working with the newer 1280, and it's one of the few limitations that it has is just transferring those photos. Um, so those extra fields, there's additional fields to put on the label. There's sky's the limit with label designs. So um, as far as label designs go, when you need a new label design, we have people here that you would talk to, and they would work with you on the label design and get you the label design uploaded to your system, and help you out with that. So production. This is a piece production scenario. You can see our touchscreen, our PC touchscreens there, but the the other scale works the same. So this particular scenario is you've got the bigger printer on the right, and there's three stations. There's one off on the left too, but you can see there's two stations kind of here, and each station has a big printer and a small printer. The big printer is actually for the printing the pre-printed labels that are going a on the actual pieces. You don't have to do it this way, but this is the way this client chose to do it. So we have the little labels that are going on the pieces, and then we have the the bigger case labels are going on the outside. Um, so this allows them to do both. And like they'll hit piece, and then it says, okay, print me my case label, and you get the summary. And we can print a summary label of what's in the case. There's a lot of things we can do there. But the other thing that we have in this particular client might be worth mentioning is that we're using a barcode scanner here. So in the butcher's room there, in the fab room, we have a tablet, and in that room or on a tablet, we select a lot and we select the product that he's cutting up, and we print out a tag with a it's got a big old barcode on it, and that tag travels with the pan of cuts. Those cuts go through let's say through the vacuum sealer, the skin pack machine, and they come out here, and that label stays with them, and they just go up to the scale, scan that label, and it selects the right product and right lot. That saves a lot of errors, so that the the person at the scale doesn't need to know the difference between a New York strip and a ribeye. They just, especially when it's vacuum sealed, it's a little hard to tell. So they uh, they just scan the label and it tells them what it is, and there's no room for error, I guess. Um, so this particular client is putting it in baskets because they have our e-commerce solution, and from there it's going to the e-commerce side of things. So we're not putting them in cases because we pick out of these baskets to fulfill e-commerce orders. Um, so now to get the stuff to production, the raw material, um, we take that carcass or those boxes and we issue them to this lot that we created, the production lot. We scan them out, and then they are now out of inventory, and they are now attached to the production lot, so that we can now scale. And once again, we talked about the scaling. So now here at the scale, they would select the lot. See that little blue button, select job lot. There's a create lot button. Those buttons, there are some buttons there that are dangerous, and they can be turned off. So they're going to be turned off by user. So depending who logs in, gets to see certain things. So they select the job, then they start weighing. We do have another production screen, a different scaling screen designed for high volume, where you're doing a lot of the same thing, where we at the PC, when we set up a job or a lot, we tell it what it's going to be and what scale it gets associated to. So that scale, when you go to that scale, you only see the job that was associated to it, and then they start weighing, and like every, I don't know, 60th label, we print a pallet tag, or however it is. Um, so there's another screen for high volume um, runs, or where you're doing a lot of the same thing all day long. If you're doing a lot of different cuts, then this is a screen you would use. You can see we can print our inner label, which is that one with the red on it. We can do something like that. A pre-pack label with pricing if you wanted to, you can do that. Or you just wanted, product information, no barcode, we can do that. There's a million different combinations we can do. The label in the middle is the actual case label, and the one on the top is a case manifest. And that barcode, that little two-dimensional barcode, that little square with the dots, is the same as the barcode on the that goes on the case. But you could scan either. When we're scanning out to ship, um, you would get the same results. But the manifest label shows you every single weight that's within that box. If you're doing tray pack. If you're not doing tray pack, then you just print a case every time. Tray pack is our piece labeling. So anyway, this is scale station. So this is where we're going to produce our finished good labels that are going to go back into inventory. So every time we print a label here, it goes back into inventory. That's why we have a void button. So if they make a mistake, they can take those products out of inventory if they need to, or back them out. We can turn off that button based on who's logged in, so that your average Joe can't void stuff out of the system. But it just depends on your trust level with everyone, whether or not you want to allow that. So the tray pack, what I was talking about before, this is what that screen looks like. You select your lot, then you come into this screen, you hit print pack. So they printed 4 packs in this case, and hit print case, and then you get your pack. Unfortunately, the case manifest label doesn't represent what is on the screen, but that's the idea. So you could have one product, you can have mixed products in a case, and that's how we'd handle that. And then again, what the case label might look like up top. You can turn those check boxes, you can turn things on or off. You can do quite a bit on this screen. Now that we made a case, it's in inventory. You want to view the inventory or edit the inventory or run reports, you come to this screen first. And this screen is a filter screen. It allows you to select location that you want to see, the products that you want to see. Then you can print your report, or you can go to the view raw data and you can edit the data. You can move things around or put something on an order that got lost, or there's a lot of stuff you can do with that screen. Okay. All said and done, you want to view your production, you can go to the production reports or production screen, select a lot that you want to see or multiple lots, and then run a report. To give you an idea of what a report might look like, here's one of the summary reports. So this shows you what was made and what was issued in. So we issued in 2,000 pounds and we got out 300 pounds. And if you see a day like this, you're going to know something was wrong. And it's a very good indicator to know to run at the end of the day on your lots, and it'll tell you if something went wrong. Especially if you see, I have a client, he called me and said his inventory was all off, and we looked at it, and I said, well, let's look at production. He said, well, no, it's the inventory's off, not the production. I said, no, you got to look at production, and I know where the problem is. So we looked at the production, and he was getting that week he had 125% yield, 150% yield, and what that tells you is you made meat out of nothing. So essentially what we figured out is that someone wasn't trained and was taking meat from the coolers and using it. And again, that's a bad thing because one, your yield is off, but your inventory is off, and your traceability is gone. So you don't know what meat was used in that production. So it's a good thing to look at right away, because then you can go knock heads together if the numbers are wrong. Okay. Now that we have this new finished good in inventory, let's say we want to do an order, a wholesale order. So we would go into the system and select a customer, enter the order. We can even, in the upper right hand corner, we can select what, it's not filled out right here, but you have your product ID, product name, and last price paid. You can click on any one of those and it would select that product for you, put the pricing in for you, and then when you're all done, you hit save and close. It will print out a sheet, a bill of lading, or not, a pick sheet similar to the one here on the left. You can go on the scanner, scan that barcode. It'll select the order for you on the handheld, and then you start fulfilling the order. There are limitations that you can turn on or off, whether or not they can scan something that wasn't on the order, or we stop them, or we let them. There's a lot of different settings to handle those sorts of things and how you want to run your shipping. But I'll give you an example. The next slide will be somebody actually scanning to an order. So you scan the order. Now he's scanning items going out. So the last scan he did refreshed the screen. There's also a refresh button, but it's a little trick that they learned, that if they scan the order again, it refreshes the screen. And that tells them everything they scanned, etc. We could, in some cases too, we could palletize this stuff. If you wanted to do everything as a pallet, we just scan one barcode instead of 10. You can palletize beforehand, but it just depends on again, how your orders are going out and what works for you. When all said and done, you can get a bill lading, and this bill lading can be shipped automatically emailed to the customer, or it can go wherever you want. I mean, uh, if you want it to be emailed to billing and the customer or wherever it goes, you could do that. But you know, billing if you don't have QuickBooks. If you have QuickBooks, we don't need to send it to them, but it's up to you. But essentially, we have 32 different designs here, so um, you could have there's some with logos on them, there's some with no summary, there's some with the serial number, some without the serial number, some are broken down by pallet or lot. There's a bunch of different versions of this. And now that all is said and done, if you want to send the invoice off to QuickBooks, we do. We ship it to QuickBooks. It goes directly into QuickBooks. Um, right now it's QuickBooks Desktop. We're working on the um, QuickBooks Online, but that should be ready in the next, I'd say, 2 months. So by July-ish, 2022, we should have that done. So if you're watching this then or after that, hopefully we have it all done. So what this does is it shows you all the invoices that are going to go out, and you can decide not to send an invoice, uncheck it if you want to, but all these invoices now are going to get inserted into QuickBooks directly. You don't have to open QuickBooks to do it. I mean, you're going to want to open QuickBooks afterwards to print out the invoices or view them or whatever you're going to do, but all that information is there. Pricing, people usually ask me about how does pricing work. Well, the pricing you can enter in PPS, and then it goes off into QuickBooks and inserts it. Inventory, we keep the inventory in PPS because when we're receiving, we receive at cost. So the current cost, right? So when we receive a box in, let's say, and it's 20 pounds and it's $1 a pound, we receive it at $20. If your price changes to $2 tomorrow, that box doesn't change to $40. It stays at $20. The new box coming in would be $40. And then because we're doing sales through our software, if you're entering the pricing in our software, then I can let you know your profits, all your net profits and everything. We can even keep track of salespeople, etc. As far as QuickBooks goes, to set it up, it's a one-time setup where we have to have the administrator has to be there, so we can give our program access to QuickBooks. Once we have that, then we can talk to it. We sync products, we sync customers, we sync vendors with QuickBooks. And like I said, we send information over, it creates an invoice. We can put all the weights in the QuickBooks description. There's a lot of settings and things that we can do with QuickBooks, but regardless, invoices now in QuickBooks ready to go. Now, we talked about like web order fulfillment, stuff like that. So we had our shipping before. He was shipping a wholesale order to a restaurant. What about your e-commerce orders? So this particular client, the e-commerce orders, we have a web API, which is a database in the cloud, if you're not familiar with the terminology. So essentially, we have a connector in the cloud for our client to write to. So they write the orders to our API, or we may go pull them. If you have something like WooCommerce or Shopify, we may pull them from there. So we pull down the orders, they come down to PPS, and now they're local. This particular client, in the morning, we print out like a piece of paper for each order. The pickers go and take that piece of paper, pick the orders out of baskets, put them into these baskets with the order piece of paper, and they make their way to the packers. We scan each order as we're picking them so they don't get double picked or anything like that. We know which orders were picked and when, everything like that. So then when they get to this station, I'll show you what they do, but essentially what they're going to do is they're going to scan an order, scan each piece. As they scan the pieces, it's confirming that they're right. You can kind of see in the one on the left, it's yellow and green. Yellow is something that hasn't been fulfilled yet. Green is something that has. And now that, once she's done, the whole screen turns green and she can print the FedEx label, a dry ice label, a packing list, and the gift receipt. that all happens automatically, and then it goes down uh, onto the other side. It gets palletized and gets sent off to the different FedEx facilities, whether it's ground or express. We separate the two. We have a scanning feature on the handhelds that also allows them to scan to those orders. One of the things we didn't touch on, I kind of glossed over inventory, but in the scanning features, we do have the ability to do cycle counts and correct inventories, move things around, um, scan a box to know its history. There's so many features in the scan gun. We can cover those on a call when you call us for maybe a live demo, or if you want to get more detail, we can go over that. But there's all that in the system. There's many features that would take us hours to cover here. But I just wanted to give you an overview of everything it does. So let's watch this video real quick. So you can see the one on the right, she's already finished her order. She's got a dry ice placard, which is that thing with the stripes on it. They have to put that on express orders because they're going out express, and it requires the dry ice label. The girl on the left is packing the dry ice, and it's going to get weighed. When she's all done, she'll hit print. But the girl on the right has already packed her box. She's about to put the two labels on the outside. The two documents that go inside, if it's two, if there is a gift receipt, it prints. If not, it doesn't. And we also have a barcode on the gift receipt that the order can't be closed unless you scan to that barcode, so that we know they actually touched the gift receipt and put it in the box. Um, and then they also put a packing list inside as well. Um, and it also handles multiple boxes per order, a bunch of things like that. So anyway, in this particular system, on top of it, knows the difference between a frozen order and a fresh order, and whether it's express or not, where it's got to go. If there's an address error, the system handles it and pops up to the operator that there's an error, prints out a label with the error information with the address on it, so that they can hand that to the supervisor and they can go correct the order, and know what order it's got the order ID on it. It says this is the wrong address. It might give a suggested address on the label so that they can fix it. But so this would be the e-commerce fulfillment side of things. And to finish it all off, we can do third-party integration. We can read files, write files, write to the cloud, make things exposed to the cloud for third-party softwares to read or write to talk to. We can do customer ordering, where your customers can place orders on their cell phones. And, we have an app for that. Some of those things are the add-ons, that they're like the additional things. But our licensing, you purchase the license. With these types of add-ons, those things need their monthly services because we have to keep up a cloud infrastructure that we have to pay for continually to keep it going. So those particular services do have monthly charges, but our software, by default, our main license, outside of these add-ons, you purchase a license, you own it. When you want modifications, we do them. If the modifications are big, then we quote you to get the modifications done. If you want an update, we will do the update, and we only charge for the time to do the update. The service, we're 24/7 service. If you do want to buy service hours, you can buy packs of service hours at a discount ahead of time. And that's pretty much how we work. We have lots of people here to answer the phone and help you. If you call any one of our clients that showed on that first screen, they'll tell you that we service them very well. And I think have a great day. If you'd like to see more, or have a lot of questions or whatever, contact us, and we can set up a time where we can kind of go through this again if you need to, or see more. If you want to see live software, we can do that, and answer any questions or concerns that you may have, and get you a current quote. So I'd say pricing now, but we can't because it might change. But thank you very much, and you have a great day.